Well, good morning, Santa Clarita. Delgado here with you, but I'm not alone. We have the host of Politics in the Pulpit, which can be heard every Wednesday at 2 p.m. here with us, Jerry Cook, and also the KHTS co-owner, Carl Goldman. Good morning, Carl.
Good morning. How are you doing, Delgado?
Pretty
Pastor
good. It
Cook?
was.
You ready for this?
I think so, yeah. This is a little early for me, but I think we can do this.
Oh, good. Well, for the next 3 hours, we are going to give you as much of the election coverage that we possibly can. We're going to have a number of candidates calling in. We'll get you caught up. And, this being California, it'll be a couple presidential terms before we have the final results in, don't you think?
July 10th is our official certification date.
Unbelievable.
So technically a little over a month out. And you know how this works. If the Republicans ahead, we got to figure out what the algorithm is here and make sure we get enough votes out from under the table.
But it's unbelievable that this state, compared to many other states, I think Florida, for instance, has the results in that same night. And we could probably go easily a week now before we have the tallies totally in.
What's interesting is in California, the early vote is actually tallied later, and the day-in vote is tallied first, which makes sense in one way. But you'd think that votes that were mailed in on May 5th, would have been tallied already. But this is why our elections are frustrating here, especially for Republican candidates in particular, because we can comfortably go to bed on election night thinking our guy's ahead or our gal is ahead, and then 2, 3, 4 days later watch those leads start to dwindle and in some cases take a loss.
And then the latest stats show that voter turnout's about 22% of the eligible people who have registered to vote. So less than a quarter of the people actually voted in this primary.
Yeah, it's actually kind of sad because this, in many ways, is a change election. Maybe not a change election in the Florida sense, but a change election in the California sense, right? Because according to the Secretary of State, Shirley Weber, as of 2026, as of last month in May, we had the most eligible voters in California up to this point ever, which is somewhere around 26 million, give or take 100,000 or so. But yet, out of that 26 million eligible voters, just a fraction of them came out for this primary. And we'll see what happens in the midterms because obviously there's a lot more momentum when it comes to federal elections. So we'll see what happens.
But the results that have come in so far of that 22% is what at the moment?
I believe it's somewhere around 11%.
11% have actually voted.
Voted that have been counted, and it's definitely going to go up.
Right.
I have heard that 34 to 35% of what we're going to see in terms of vote for this particular election, when it's all said and done and counted, which is actually pretty good. And just to also, by the way, we've got a call right now from the guy that just went against Rob Bonta and came in second, obviously. Michael Gates for Attorney General. How are you, sir?
Good. Doing really good.
Well, you came in second with a strong second. Bonta right now currently sits at 2.5 million, and you're over 2 million votes. How do you feel, and what is your take on the golden ticket going into November?
Well, everybody won last night, which is awesome. We won in spades because the numbers are looking good for the Republican turnout. No Republican in a primary in this type of race across the board in the gubernatorial has reached these kinds of numbers. So I'm at nearly 43%, over 2 million votes. That's remarkable. That's record-setting. At least that record goes back over a decade. So great numbers, great turnout. The team working together moving into November, it's going to be very strong. I think people want change in California. And more than that, I think they're going to be very attracted to a team of people who are going to work together to bring that change.
And my understanding is the team is actually going to get on an airplane pretty soon. And what's the plan for the golden ticket today and then going forward?
we're going to convene in Sacramento, talk to party leadership, and just get all on the same page in terms of a strategy moving forward. But it's just it's something that I think everyday Californians, 65% of respondents to polls say California's heading in the wrong direction. So Democrats, Independents, and Republicans alike are pretty upset with what's going on in California, just like a lot of people or most people in LA are upset with what's going on in Los Angeles. And so I think people are going to embrace this change, and so we're looking forward to it.
Well, you guys have got 5 months, 4.5 months or so to campaign. One of the things that I think is encouraging, if we look at the top of the ticket here, which of course Steve Hilton is leading. Javier Becerra was in the lead early in the evening last night, and then Steve took a lead and hasn't looked back since. But of course we know there's 40% still outstanding. Who knows what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks? As you know, July 10th is our official date of certification. But we're going to have Steve Hilton be calling in about an hour or so, and I'll ask him the same question, Michael. But what are your thoughts as you've been traveling up and down California with this golden ticket? Do you feel as if just as many disaffected Democrats and non-party preferences are coming onto your side as Republicans are?
Absolutely. In fact, I've had so many Democrats come up to me and say, I'm voting for you this time. I always vote Democrat, but I'm voting for the golden ticket this time. We need to rescue California. So it's all about rescuing California.
Absolutely. I'm going to have my partner in crime here, Carl Goldman. He's the co-owner of KHTS here, hometown station. Carl, you got a couple questions for the potential Attorney General for here, California.
Yeah, as we've seen in past elections, the ballots, the 60% that are still outstanding can very, very easily turn things around. What do you project at this point with the 60% that haven't been counted? Or actually, it's 40% that haven't been counted.
I think the trends overnight have been similar. So I think we're going to continue that similar pattern. I don't think the positions are going to change.
And do we have any idea what percent were write-in ballots that have been counted so far, mailed-in ballots?
No. I don't know.
And as you said, California needs to have a change. You know, we do a Sacramento trip every year with KHTS, the KHTS Sacramento trip. We take about 100 community leaders up to Sacramento. We've done this for some 16 years now. And each year, it seems like Sacramento gets more and more dysfunctional, and we don't think it can get any more dysfunctional. But we just went up a few months ago, and it has gotten more dysfunctional.
Yeah, well, you know, that's part of the issue with the one-party rule. There's no checks and balances. It's been almost 20 years of one-party rule. In fact, with the legislature, it's been many, many, many years of supermajority legislature. So they literally can do what they want without any checks, balances. It's absolutely insane. And this is what happens when you have one-party rule. And what we have with regard to the Attorney General's office with this one-party rule is absolute lawlessness. We have seen Rob Bonta quite literally allow his wife, Mia Bonta, to continue with sponsoring some bill, this Stop Nick Shirley Act, that is an attack on our First Amendment rights. And for that kind of brazen attack on our constitutional rights to even take place, you can only explain it by saying it's one-party rule, that there's no accountability in Sacramento.
Absolutely. Michael Gates, I want to thank you so much for calling in today. I know you got a busy day ahead of you as well as a busy few months. And Godspeed to you, and call back into KHTS, and looking forward to talking to you in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. There goes Michael Gates, perhaps the future Attorney General here in the state of California.
Let's, Pastor Jerry, let's run down some of the local results. And Jason Gibbs, our own city councilman, is smiling today.
Yeah, he is, and rightfully so, because he is been ahead of George Whitesides in this primary really since the numbers started trickling in last night. And the thing is, George really didn't put a bunch of money or effort into this. I think he's really looking forward to the November election because he's thinking that he's got a consolidation of the Democrats behind him. But you know what? We've seen some things happen here, Carl, as you know, back in 2019 with Katie Hill, and then Mike Garcia slipping in there with a special election and then winning 2 consecutive elections on his own merits. and then unfortunately losing in 2024 to George Whitesides. But who knows? Jason is a young, vibrant guy. George Whitesides, he seems like a nice guy. I've met him a few times. He's been very cordial to me. He doesn't seem like a complete over-the-top lunatic radical, but, his record seems to indicate kind of a mixed bag there. What are your thoughts, Carl?
Well, I think George is a nice guy. We've met him a number of times, but as a young rookie Democrat, he's got to go with the flow in Washington, and it's unfortunate, but his voting record is pretty extreme. I'll put it that way, and he may be forced to do it, but he's voting with the party rather than his convictions.
Yeah, hopefully at some point here, Jason Gibbs will either come into the studio and or call in. We'd like to talk to Jason and kind of get his thoughts as he looks at these numbers coming in too. The other thing that's interesting is District 26, which of course because of the redistricting efforts put forth by Governor Newsom and Prop 50, part of Ventura County comes up through Castaic. And as of right now, it looks like the Republican Sam Gallucci, who's also a pastor there in Ventura, is pulling ahead, and is Mike Kozlow, who was my particular choice, has fallen short as of right now. But again, as you know, Carl, there are still 40% of the vote outstanding. These numbers could change, but right now it seems like Sam Gallucci has got the early lead over Mike Kozlow.
And then on the local side for the assembly, that's a shock.
It is a shock. It is a shock because Ricky Hayes right now looks as if he might be poised to be the second going after Pilar Chavo in November. None of us sitting at this table knew Ricky Hayes a month and a half ago. None of us. and our nose is in the dirt when it comes to politics, and we know what's going on in our community. But he kind of popped out of nowhere, got some support from some very influential high-end Republicans, and seems as if, because his name was in Carl DeMaio's voter guide, which a lot of people look to, I believe that he will probably be our Republican. But here's the good thing, though, Carl, and I think you'd agree with this. We have a Republican candidate going against a Democrat.
Exactly. And it will be an interesting fight because we have George Whitesides, I would say, is a moderate Democrat. Pilar Chavo is definitely a progressive Democrat.
No doubt about that. You just told me a few minutes ago that she voted for the Stop Nick Shirley Act, which generally basically stifles journalism, which if you take that bill, take out all the legalese out of it, that's basically what that bill is saying, that if you find fraud and you publish it, well, then you'll be under the scrutiny of Sacramento from that point on.
Yeah, I'm going to be very interested to see if she'll answer our question as to why she supported that.
Well, I'd still like to get her in studio.
That may happen. We're going to take a short break, do some traffic, weather, and we'll be back with more election coverage here on your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS 98.1 FM. If you're just waking up, it is the day after Election Day, primary for California. Carl Goldman here along with Pastor Jerry Cook, Delgado, of course, in the studio as well. We're going to do this special 3-hour presentation all the way to 10 o'clock. If you're just waking up, we'll give you a quick rundown on the results, and then it'll be about 9:15, Pastor Cook, before the next results come in. So these are really numbers from 1 a.m.
Yeah, the ballot drops happen at 9:15, as you said, a little after 9, and then there'll be another one, I think, tomorrow. Here's the thing about California. It takes time to count ballots. If you think that your ballot that was mailed in on May 5th is counted first, you are wrong. A lot of what we got last night is day of vote and some provisional ballots. But it's going to take 30 days to certify, so technically July 10th is when everything will be certified.
So the results right now have about 40% of the ballot still missing. So only 60% have been counted, but the patterns are there. So why don't you do a quick rundown on the top of the ballot first, starting with the governor?
Well, starting with the governor, obviously Steve Hilton is on top at the moment. And what's interesting about that is we kind of thought maybe, because we're so used to it here in California, that the Democrat would be the top of the ticket. But no, Xavier Becerra, or Xavier Baccaria, if you want to call him as Joe Biden would, he's got 25.4% of the vote, whereas Steve Hilton at the moment has, let's see here, I'm just looking, 27.8%. He's actually pulled ahead. He's almost quickly in at 28% of the vote. And by the way, that's 1,386,000 votes and change. Now, Chad Bianco is at 11%, and so that means he's going to have to quickly concede this, and he's going to have to back Steve Hilton here when it comes to push to shove. When it comes to lieutenant governor, it looks like Gloria Romero is in first place against Fiona Ma, who is in second place, who's the Democratic candidate. And also for Secretary of State, Don Wagner is second to the current Secretary of State right now, Shirley Weber. State Controller Herb Morgan is going to be calling in any minute now. He has come in with almost 2 million, actually over 2 million votes for state controller. So there is a lot of passion in California for fiscal oversight, which is exactly what the state controller does.
So what place is he in?
He's in second place right now, but he is awfully close to taking over the number one spot against his Democratic incumbent. And then we've got treasurer. That is Jennifer Hawks. The other Republican, David Serpia, came in a distant fourth and has no chance. Attorney General, we just spoke to Michael Gates in the last half hour. He has gotten well over 1 million votes, and he's definitely going into the November elections. Now, here's the most amazing thing, is the superintendent of public instruction. There's been a lot of debate in California about Title IX, about biological boys playing with biological girls in sports, and Sonia Shaw, who was with the school district there in Chino Valley, made a lot of hay a few years ago when she came out strong against biological boys playing against biological girls in sports. Well, everyone poo-pooed her chances. She's right now currently number one.
Wow.
Out of 8 candidates. She's actually the only candidate out of the 8 that have over 1 million votes. The next closest to her is the Barrera, and he's got somewhere around 750,000.
So we could be seeing a change in our education system here in California, which it desperately needs at this point.
Absolutely. The one I'm really more curious about, by the way, those are all great. And I think as a conservative, a right-leaning Democrat, or a conservative-leaning independent here in California, you can get up on June 3rd and kind of, be semi-rejoiceful. But again, all these provisionals and all these early ballots are still yet to be counted, so don't get too excited. But the one that I'm really curious about is insurance commissioner. And we're in a state here where insurance is just atrocious. I mean, fire insurance, everyone's being forced on the FAIR Plan. And you would think that some of these votes would translate into the insurance commissioner race. But as of right now, my choice for insurance commissioner is Stacey Korsgaden. She is currently in third place with 17.5% of the vote. And right now, the top 2 are held by Democrats, Ben Allen at 19.2% and Jane Kim at 23.7%. So right now, Stacey is nipping at the heels of the second place finisher. I just texted her. I said, stay in the race, because you never know, this 40% might actually lopsidedly go to her.
On the local side, we have, of course, the Congress up for grabs with George Whiteside's the Democrat, Jason Gibbs the Republican, and right now Jason is leading George Whitesides. But as you said earlier, Pastor Cook, George Whitesides didn't really put a lot of effort into this race because he's waiting for November and gaining speed at that point.
He is absolutely waiting because he knows that he's got all the money, all the endorsements on his side. And Jason Gibbs, again, you and I know Jason. We've known him for years. We voted for him and supported him at City Council. We know that he has a great future, and our desire is that Jason has a good showing in November and that there's a even greater momentum in November than there is now for this primary. But the fact of the matter is, Jason does have an uphill climb, but he's young, he's vibrant, he's got a great family, and as long as Republicans are motivated, you just never know. I think it's one of those wild cards going into November.
The other big surprise is the assembly, our assembly district.
Yeah. So again, the numbers still need to come in. We've got 3 Republicans that were vying for the number 2 slot against Pilar Chavo. And as of right now, Ricky Hayes, the virtual unknown, has come in as of right now in the second-tiered slot against Pilar Chavo. Elizabeth Allers is third with a little under 14% of the vote. And then Andreas Pharmakalides, who is centered out in the San Fernando Valley, he is barely cracking 9% of the vote right now.
The measure that I've been looking at and was concerned about is the one county measure ER, which is another devious attempt to raise our taxes, Pastor Cook. And right now, that looks like it's going down. It's 53% to 47%. So there's a 6% difference in not having our highest taxes in the entire country go up even another notch.
You know, that's actually kind of a relief, right? You would think with all these votes for Republicans up and down the state that it would translate to folks not wanting to have more taxes taken out of their pocket. And thankfully, this measure is going down. I always tell people if it says bond, that's just their way of saying tax without saying it, because obviously that's a 4-letter word, even though it's 3-letter, we get it. But we don't want to say tax outright, so let's just say bond.
But it's hard to believe that 47% of the people who voted want their taxes raised.
Yeah, those are the people that are gluttons for punishment, right? And by the way, also in Los Angeles County, we have a mayoral race, which is really interesting. Obviously, Karen Bass is going into the runoff. In Los Angeles City, you can win outright on primary day if you get 50 plus 1. Well, that has not happened with Karen Bass, and that has not happened with Spencer Pratt. Right now, Karen Bass has 36% of the vote. Spencer's at 30% of the vote. But Nithya Raman, the socialist Mamdani candidate, is right at 22%. There's still about 41% of the vote outstanding for LA City. So we really need to keep our eye on where Nithya Raman's numbers go. I'm cautiously optimistic that Spencer's going to go into November. I'm pretty sure he is. But you just never know.
And it's been interesting to see the momentum he's had. So with a number of months in front of him and more creativity on the social media side and with the political ads, we could see a big change in Los Angeles City. And it baffles me, Pastor Cook, that here you have Karen Bass, who hits a new level of incompetence in a variety of things. We have the fires just coming at us in a way that is unbelievable, and yet she's in the lead.
Well, here's the thing, though. If you count 30% and 22%, that's about 2/3 of the city saying no. We have on the line Herb Morgan, who's running for state controller. He had a great night last night with some really good numbers. In fact, over 2 million votes for Herb. How are you, sir?
Well, it is a fine morning. I'm going on about 3 hours sleep and a cup of coffee. But you're right. Not only do we have over 2 million, Jerry, but we got 42.23%, and the highest percentage of any Republican statewide in 20 years in California was 37. So myself and Michael Gates, the Attorney General candidate, both cracked 42%. It was a big, big night for Republicans.
We just got off the phone with Michael about 25 minutes ago, and of course we congratulated him. Really, the golden ticket is indeed the golden ticket here in California. As you know, Steve Hilton is still leading, even though 40% of the vote is still yet to be counted, and you know how that works here in California, Herb. But one of the things that I'm amazed about, again, is just how many votes that what I would consider a non-romantic political office for state controller, right? Because no one's really thinking about that. But we are this year because I think Californians are just sick of having no fiscal oversight. And you have come in and you've been campaigning on, hey, listen, we are going to do an audit of the books. We're going to look into this fraud. That's essentially also what Steve Hilton has been saying. Your thoughts about California and just being done with the fiscal irresponsibility of the Democratic Party?
Well, I've been saying this all along the last 14 months on the campaign. Californians are a wide swath of the political spectrum, right? We're all unique. We're a big state. We're 39 million people. But we are fiscally prudent, fiscally responsible, fiscally conservative, no matter what you want to say. And I don't care if you're a libertarian or a communist, stealing money is still wrong. And we now have irrefutable proof of this. It's just, I wrote my white paper. It's online at herbmorgan.com. We outline $425 billion in waste and fraud over the last 5 years. Then we have another white paper on there that says how we fix it easily, cheaply, and quickly. So yeah, Californians of all stripes agree this is not a political issue. We have to be more efficient, more effective, more direct with the spend of our state government.
Herb Morgan, congratulations again on a great night. God's blessings on you as you campaign for the next 4.5 months or so here in California. And we'll be looking to having you back on here on KHTS and talking a little bit more about fiscal responsibility coming back to Sacramento via Herb Morgan's campaign. Thank you, sir, for calling in.
Thanks for having me. Talk to you soon.
We'll talk to you soon. All right. We'll take it back to Delgado here on your hometown station.
Hometown station. Carl Goldman with you, along with Pastor Jerry Cook Delgado in the studio. We are here till 10 a.m. giving you election coverage. It's a little frustrating because here in California, we can wait a good week and a half before we have the final ballots in. Right now, there's still 40% outstanding. We're expecting new tallies in about an hour. But right now, if you just if you waking up or coming out from under a rock, it looks like Steve Hilton is squeaking by as the governor right now, running against Xavier Becerra, who is coming and looking like he's coming in second place. On the local level, the interesting side, Pilar Chavot is our assemblywoman. She's easily in first place, but the surprise is that Ricky Tracy is coming up number 2 and will look like they'll be competing against each other in a runoff. And then we also have our congressmen, George Whitesides and Jason Gibbs. Jason Gibbs is in first place right now, but they'll be running off in November, on November 3rd. With right now only 22% of the voter turnout taking place, we think it'll end up probably in the mid-30s, right, Pastor Cook?
Yeah, that's what they're kind of projecting right now, which is actually pretty good for a primary. Usually these tend to be low propensity voters, and so we'll see. I mean, there's a lot more for Californians to get on board with right now, and it seems as if there are enough Californians, at least in this primary, that say, you know what, what do we have to lose here? Democrats have been in control for 16 years, 20 years if you're looking at the Sacramento Assembly, and Republicans haven't had their fingerprints on virtually anything. And all the Democrats can run on is Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump is the president of the United States. He's not the president of just California. And at some point, that shtick is going to have to come to an end. And so I think Steve Hilton, being the president's pick, and by the way, I should say this, the president has had a pretty good record when it comes to picking primary wins. Just a couple of weeks ago, he threw his support behind Ken Paxton in Texas, which was against all of the Republican, prognosticators out there. Everybody in the party wanted John Cornyn, who was the incumbent. Paxton won by 28 points against a sitting incumbent. The same thing in Louisiana with Casey, and then all up and down the state Senate in Indiana for those who voted against the redistricting efforts, the Republicans that held that up. Virtually all of them lost against President Trump's picks.
And I'm dancing in my chair because it looks like county measure ER is going to go down, and that means our taxes, which are already the highest in the country, are not going to creep up even higher. So there's a 6% gap between it. 53% of the voters are turning down the increase in taxes. And as I said earlier, it's hard to believe 47% of the voters want their taxes to go up.
Yeah, well, those are the 47% that unfortunately probably can afford it and or don't care if somebody else's pockets get picked. And so, yeah, it's people like that you just kind of wonder, who keeps voting for these things, right? So I'm really glad that it seems to be, at least at the moment, going down in flames. Especially
in the news, it looks as if somewhere between 20 and 30% of our money is going to waste and to actual fraud. We don't even have to say waste anymore because more of that is waste as well. But 20 to 30% with fraud, and yet our great legislature up in California is coming up with the Stop Nick Shirley Act.
No, it's seriously. And, of course, our Assemblywoman, Pilar Chavo, who we'd love to get on KHTS sometime in the future. We're going to ask her about that. Joining us right now on the line is Jennifer Oliver O'Connell with Red State, As the Woman Turns, all kinds of things. Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, you're no stranger here to KHTS. Good morning. Thanks for calling in from the great state of Alabama.
Well, good morning to you. Very early morning for you.
Well, you know what? I don't normally do the morning show, and the co-owner here of KHTS, Carl Goldman, who, by the way, say hi, Carl.
Hello. Great to talk to you, Jennifer.
Hello, Carl. Thanks for having me.
We wanted to do this post-election analysis here because, obviously, as you know, Jennifer, in California, our elections go on for 30 days.
Yeah.
So what is your quick takeaway from 2,000 miles away as you look at California, and what are your thoughts about governor's race all the way down into some of our local elections?
I love that Republicans actually listened, and not just Republicans, really. People who could care less one side or the other. That's the majority of the people I knew when I lived in California, were people who were just like red, blue, whatever. But they've paid attention, and they said, you know what, we've had enough of this. They coalesced, and it is showing. It's especially showing in the mayor's race, but it's really showing in the governor's race. I'm so proud of all the friends that I know who worked hard on behalf of Steve Hilton, and to see him in the lead, fingers crossed again because it's California, but in the lead and surging forward, I think it's awesome.
And, I'll give you my quick take on this, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Jennifer. Again, talking to Jennifer Oliver O'Connell with Red State. Obviously, there's 40% of the vote still outstanding here in California, and a lot of that is early vote. Well, Steve has been leading in a lot of these early polling votes ever since, February of this year. And Javier Becerra, or Baccaria, depending on how you want to pronounce it today, he only started surging after Swalwell fell out of the race because of, problems, if you will. And he's only been in the lead for the last couple of weeks. So I'm thinking that all of the rest of the vote here is actually going to be icing on the cake for Steve Hilton and not for Javier Becerra. So it's very possible that Steve Hilton could come out on top here on July 10th when we officially certify, and Becerra, the Democrat, be at the bottom, which is a good switch for Republicans because we're usually the second guy finishing.
Right. I agree with you because the polling has consistently shown Steve ahead, and then, Javier was a late addition who basically, and Swalwell got part of that vote too because, he was still on the ballot. Easily enough, the last time I looked, he got 0.4% or something like that, which is like whatever. But yeah, the fact that they still are counting that early ballot showed Hilton ahead, and now they are counting that cleanup, it could easily show that Hilton is still at the top. Because, he has been in front of the people of California for quite some time, and that matters because you start building name recognition, you start building a movement that way. And again, people are tired of the whole Johnny-come-lately thing and swooping in and I'm going to save you, and that's really all Javier Becerra was. People aren't stupid.
Yeah,
they finally recognize, but then they're also finally acting on it.
Let's talk real quickly about the absolute implosion of Katie Porterhouse real briefly here. She came in fifth, and I mean, she imploded. I mean, she's only got 4.6% of the vote as of right now. 231,000 votes. She's well behind. She actually she's right behind Chad Bianco, who, of course, came in fourth. Your thoughts about Katie? Do you think we've put her out to pasture, no pun intended, and do you think she's just going to go back to Irvine and just teach her classes?
I think she should. That would be the smart thing. Go find a think tank. She'll get paid well by some leftist think tank. To sit there and, write papers and, trot her out occasionally for a speech. But, yeah, she's done and she needs to be done. She has face planted one too many times, and she really is the poster child of the, white female liberal, the awful. She's a poster child of that. And unfortunately, fortunately, people saw that and said, no, we don't want any more of this. We don't need this in our politics. Please go away.
Real quickly, let's pivot to local elections real quick here in California, specifically here in Los Angeles County. And I want you to put on your LA hat for just a quick moment. Okay. We have the mayoral race, and obviously nobody got 50 plus 1 last night. Karen Bass is at 36%. Spencer's at around 30%. Nithya Raman's at 22% again, which goes to show you that there's still a large part of the city that is, socialist friendly. Your thoughts about the mayoral race and going forward in November?
Let's start from backwards to forward. Nithya Raman, horrible human being, horrible candidate. I mean, you eye roll and laugh at your constituents when they're concerned about a homeless encampment being near their children. That's just an awful human. So why she is getting any part of the vote is beyond me. I know why, but again, the lacking of common sense and if it has DSA behind it or if it's against what I think Republicans are, then I'm for it, is just people shooting themselves in the foot. And so good for those people who want to keep shooting themselves in the foot. Karen Bass, let's go forward. The fact that she did not reach 50%, one, it's a clear sign that the shenanigans are no longer working, and also a resounding, middle finger to her. Because seriously, how you're trying to blame the horribleness of that city on the fact, this has been going on for 30 years. No, it has not. I lived in Los Angeles inside the city for 7-8 years. It was bad, but it is not as bad as it is under her watch in just that 3.5 years that she's been over it. So this is a resounding, as I said, middle finger, as well as saying they're resonating with Spencer Pratt's message. again, what Hilton did, doing the groundwork, getting above the noise, and creating a movement. And those in those videos, he has run a really awesome campaign. They will be studying these campaigns for decades to come, because it was just so well executed, and the fact that other people were creating these AI videos for him, not his campaign, but just because they were so enthralled and entranced by what he wanted to do. That's a powerful statement.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And also, I don't know if you want to get into this, but even the LA City Attorney race, I had Nathan Hochman, our district attorney, a couple of weeks ago here on the show, and I asked him how important that LA City Attorney's race is. And he said very important, especially it would be a good partner in crime for him to implement more sane policies here in Los Angeles County. But it seems as if John McKenna, who ran for district attorney as well unsuccessfully in 2024, is actually coming in second to the incumbent at the moment, and it looks like they're going to go into a runoff in November as well. So it seems as if, Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, that I guess not all sanity has escaped California?
I suspect, and again, this is my having lived there for 35 years and knowing a lot of voters, a lot of different variety of voters, no one understands the importance of a local district attorney. They don't understand how this works in the system. And I mean, you live out in Santa Clarita, in that area. That's a whole nother part of Los Angeles. If it's not happening over there, voters are just like, well, why should I care who the city attorney is? So that education is definitely needed all across the board, but it's not necessarily insanity. It's just people are just like, oh, I don't know, he seems like a good guy and I like his name, so let me vote for him, as opposed to understanding the weight of your vote and why it's important to elect good people into those roles.
So let's come to the crescendo on this. I want to get your prophet's hat. So put on your prophetic hat for just a quick moment here, Jennifer Oliver O'Connell. We've got 5 months until the midterms. Javier Becerra has got all kinds of legal problems that Steve Hilton is going to beat him over the head with, and maybe even some of Tom Steyer's money might go towards that. Your thoughts about November? Will California finally, for the last 16 years, been under Democratic governorship, will we elect a Republican governor, yay or nay?
I'm leaning toward yay, just because, again, if Hilton keeps his momentum going, and he is, and the people who have been helping him in this campaign, he's been very smart about it. And yeah, as you said, Becerra has a ton of problems. Also key here is that machine. If the federal government can keep up with attacking California and exposing California for its fraud, including its election fraud, Harmeet Dillon is on the case with that, we might see some of those shenanigans that they usually pull, the rug being exposed. The rug will be pulled out from under them on those things where they can't do the usual avenues that they can do. And my dear friend Kara Davis said something also important, that even, because again, we're still 30 days in, even if they do try something or do something, people are expecting it and people will know that they are cheating and gaming the system. So, but my thoughts and my optimism is, as well as just looking at the lay of the land, this is winnable, and I'm all for rooting for both Hilton and Pratt to take it away in November.
Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, contributing editor to Red State 1819 News. I know that you took a few minutes out from doing your yoga, so thank you so much for calling in today, and we'll be catching up with you in the next coming weeks, of course, as our if you will, our political news starts to get more intensified. So thank you very much for calling in today at KHTS.
You are welcome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Take care.
KHTS, your hometown station. Carl Goldman with you. This special show, along with Pastor Jerry Cook and Delgado in the studio. We are going to be here till 10 o'clock giving you primary election coverage. You know, Pastor Cook, I want to thank our news staff for putting in those extra hours. They were here till midnight. We put together a special KHTS pillow for all three of them. So Sophia, Louie, Jade, thank you so much for everything. Why don't you do a quick recap from the top on down, Pastor Cook, on for those who are just tuning in now?
Real quick, by the way, I give my kudos to the staff. They're all a bunch of young bucks. They can do it, right? When it comes to the races here in California, again, if you're just tuning in to what's going on here in California, we actually did something last night which most of us kind of pessimistically didn't think about, and that is we actually voted common sense. I won't necessarily say Republican, conservative, but just common sense. I would say the normies in California came out last night. When it comes to governor, it looks like Steve Hilton right now is in the lead. He's in the lead by about 2 points, a little over 2 points against Javier Becerra. And I think that's probably going to hold considering the trends with early voting. Steve was in the lead all through the early voting part of this, and Javier Becerra was not. So I think all of the trends bode well for Steve Hilton to remain in the number one spot going into November.
But they're still 40% outstanding. However, the next drop is going to come about in the next 15, 20 minutes of ballots.
And we will update you as soon as that occurs. For Lieutenant Governor, Gloria Romero is currently in the lead. And by the way, she is part of Hilton's golden ticket. Let me just say this real quickly. Every candidate on Steve Hilton's golden ticket has made the runoff. So Lieutenant Governor, for State Controller Herb Morgan, which we heard from earlier, he has actually received more votes than Steve Hilton at this point. He's over 2 million votes for State Controller, which tells you that California wants fiscal responsibility back in California. So he's going into the runoff. Michael Gates for Attorney General is going to go into the runoff against Rob Bonta. He's well over 1 million votes. We also have Insurance Commissioner. I just had a brain freeze right there. Insurance Commissioner. Right now, Stacey Korsgaden is in third. She's only about 2 points behind the Democrat who's running second to Brian Jones. And so we're going to kind of wait, or Brian Allen, I should say. We should wait there because I think she still has a chance to pop up into that number 2 spot. I'm praying and hoping because I'm looking at all these races and I'm thinking to myself, that is an important race. Insurance in California is nuts. The fair plan is actually the unfair plan, and there are more people on the fair plan than the fair plan is intended to hold. So therefore, we really need a common sense individual in that position. For Superintendent for Education, Sonia Shaw has come out on top. She has defied all the odds. All the prognosticators said she didn't have a chance. She is right now polling over 1 million votes. The Democrat that is closest in the second is barely at 750,000. So Sonia Shaw has done something that the prognosticators said could not be done. And then as we look at the local elections here, looks like Spencer Pratt is going to go off into the runoff with Mayor Bass. And then it looks like John McKinney is going to be going into the runoff with the incumbent for LA City Council, LA City Attorney, which actually is going to be a big help and a big boon should McKinney win in November with Nathan Hochman, our current district attorney here in Los Angeles County. What I want to turn my attention on real quickly here, and I'll turn this over to Carl here. We have some measures that have come in, some of them good, some of them bad. But also the sheriff's race. What do you see there in terms of the sheriff's race, Carl Goldman?
Well, it looks like it's going to be Luna and Villanueva running against each other.
Yeah.
As the final two.
And I had supported Oscar Martinez. He's just coming in at 4.8% of the vote, which, of course, he's in fourth place. Scroll that up a little bit, if you would. I want to see where Mike Borman came in. Looks like Mike Borman finished after... Yeah, it looks like he's in fifth. So, yeah, it looks like
he's
it's going to...
He's actually in sixth place.
He's in sixth place. Okay. So it looks like that Robert Luna is got 41% of the vote. 44% of the vote, and Alex Villanueva has about 24% of the vote. So we'll see how that works on. What about the state measures?
And I think the important thing, though, is the county measure, which looks like it's going to go down in defeat of 53% to 47%. That's the one that was going to raise our tax yet another notch. And then the county measures, it looks like that's it. Measure ER is definitely going to go down in defeat. We'll wait for the next batch to come in. We'll see what happens there.
That's the thing about California, folks. If you're just waking up and getting all the sleep out of your eyes, a lot of these votes can change. The next ballot dump is going to be around 9:15 this morning, and we'll let you know when we get all the updates on our end. What were you going to say, Carl?
I was going to talk about our local elections here. Our congressman, George Whiteside's up against Jason Gibbs. Jason Gibbs in the lead at the moment, but it looks like both of them will do the runoff in November. And as you've stated many times this morning, George did not put much of an effort into this race because he knows that he's going to go into the November with a big amount of money to go into this.
Yeah, it's probably going to be one of the most expensive congressional races here in California, perhaps maybe nationally. And because of the Proposition 50 and the redistricting efforts that were unfortunately passed by California voters, of course, Paul Mitchell took a box of crayons and basically redrew the lines, right? But we'll see what happens because it looks like just about every district has got a Republican in the top two. And that's an encouraging thing because that's going to be helpful going into November, not only having a Republican on the top of the ticket, the governor, but a lot of Republicans all up and down the ballot because a very important bill is going to be placed on, or a referendum is going to be placed on the ballot in November, and that's going to be voter ID. Right, Carl?
Right.
Voter ID is a big deal. That's not just a national thing for the President of the United States, who has been rallying behind this, trying to get the Senate and the House to pass his very common sense analysis on this whole voter ID thing. But here in California, folks like Carl DeMaio, who is a congressman down in the San Diego area, and others have put forth a huge effort to get all the signatures to get voter ID on the ballot. It's going to be on the ballot in November, and I believe with the Republican momentum and the excitement of all of these Republican candidates, either in the number one position or the number two position, I think voter ID has a chance of passing in California.
And Pastor Cook, Jason Gibbs did a really strong showing so far in the lead right now for Congress and against a very strong Democrat candidate.
He is my redheaded stepbrother. Jason is a likable guy. George is a likable guy. The difference between the two, I think, is Jason, just in my opinion, again, liking George, but I have a bias against Jason because obviously we're on the same political spectrum, right? Jason's just a likable guy. I call him the kind of like a college jock, but with a brain, and he likes to look at what rockets are doing and all that kind of stuff. So he's a smart guy. I think he'd be a great representative for us here in the 27th congressional district. But the other thing that's interesting is the 26th congressional district, which is just to the north of us here and to the west. Because of the redistricting efforts of Prop 50, Mike Kozol looks like he might have come up a little short against Sam Gallucci. However, we still have a Republican going against a Democrat there that we can get behind should Kozol not pull an upset here in the coming days. And also, when it comes to our Assembly district against Pilar Chavo, there is a Republican that's going against the Democrat, and that is Ricky Hayes at the moment. Elizabeth Wong-Allers is in third, and Andreas Pharmakalides is in fourth.
We have a few minutes before the next batch is going to drop in terms of votes. And in the past, I believe the batch is going to be mostly mail-ins, correct?
Yeah, the majority of those will be mail-ins, and it's like the biblical principle in the New Testament, the first shall be last. So it doesn't matter if you cast your vote early in May. Those early votes are going to be counted last. That's just how we do it here in California. It's not my problem. It's Shirley Weber's issue, right? However, Shirley Weber is being challenged by Republican Don Wagner, who, of course, is Orange County Supervisor. We're going to have Don Wagner calling in around 9:30 this morning to talk a little bit about his campaign against Shirley Weber and some of the wonderful things he would do to kind of streamline the vote count going forward should he win in November. And also we'll be hearing from Charles Hughes, who has seemingly won his race there, at least for the top two, going in November against Steve Fox, the Republican, and against his Democratic opponent, Putz. So, and by the way, no pun intended there.
40% of the votes still not counted yet. About 22% of the total potential voter registration, 22% have voted so far. That will probably land somewhere around 30% in the end. And again, it's the California primary, so we can expect more voting in November than now. I think we were talking offline, Pastor Cook, about what November looks like, and I think one of the big unknowns right now is what's going to happen with the Iran war and whether that will end and trigger gas prices down and ease the economy back into shape and allow us to focus on the domestic issues.
On my show today at 2 o'clock, Politics of the Pulpit here on your hometown station, I want to talk a little bit about what Trump's strategy is going forward about that whole thing, because I do think that he's looking at the Iran situation 5, 6, 7 years down the road. He is a long-term thinker as opposed to what's the short-term strategy, which is essentially what the Iran deal was with Barack Obama. It was a short-term Band-Aid that gave him a short-term victory. But we're dealing with Iran still, and I think the president wants to deal with Iran and tie a neat little bow around it, hopefully by the end of June, if anything, maybe early July, so we can go into November with much lower gas prices.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. We're going to break for Fox News in a second, and stay around with us because the new numbers will be coming in, and we'll be revealing those shortly.
All right, good morning and welcome to KHTS here on your hometown station. We are doing some post-election analysis, which basically will last for another 30 days technically here in California. But I have on the line here on KHTS State Assembly District 34, Charles Hughes, who has won the second place slot against the Democratic opponent, Randall Putz. Charles, how are you, sir?
Well, I think I have to correct you. The last numbers I've seen, I think I'm in number one spot, and I'm very happy about that.
You know what?
Change.
We'll refresh our computer here because obviously it depends on where you look right now. If you look at the state, the Secretary of State, they've got one set of numbers. You look at the registrar, they got another set of numbers. But you know what? If you say you're ahead, I say amen to that. So your thoughts about last night, and not just your race, Charles, but just up and down the state of California, your thoughts about just what's going on here in California.
I think there's that the Republicans are doing real well. I believe conservatism is coming back, and we need that in this state. We are. I just believe that we are going in the wrong path, and we've had this one-party rule, and it just has not worked. And we need to get more Republicans elected throughout the state in all offices. We need 7 more in the Assembly, and of course, we need 4 more in the Senate to stop the supermajority. And if we want to win our state back, we have to do that. And I believe people are moving to our conservative views, and I think it's going to happen. We just really need good candidates out there fighting really hard and working hard like I did, and just to change the state, because I have 5 kids that are amazing, and I have 8 grandkids. And I got to tell you, this is what we have to do for our future of California. So I'm excited.
Yeah, we know you're law enforcement, and we know that you're also an open Bible-believing Christian as well. And you've not worn your faith on your sleeve, but you definitely are proud to be a Christian. How important has your faith played a role as you've been running for Assembly?
It's everything. I mean, at the end of the day, it's everything. You got to think we don't do this alone. You do it with a man above, and he's got a plan for you, and we all believe that. And we just have to serve, servant leaders. That's what we have to do, and that's what we do. And I'm excited, and there's a calling, and I answered the call, and I just wish California to get a lot more. Legislators that do it biblically, if you know what I mean. If you get in there and you vote biblically, you're going to do the right thing. And that's where we have to grab our candidates from our flock and put them out there, because you can't teach somebody to be good. You can teach people politics, but you can't teach people to be moral and ethical and that. You can't teach it, but you can teach politics. And once we start doing that, I think this state is going to turn around. And other thing is, I was listening to Pastor Peter the other day, and he talked about 40 books of the Bible, talks about churches need to get involved and they need to get political. And Pastor Peter said that the state got political on us into the Bible, so that the Bible, you have to read it and find those great leaders and support great leaders. Just listening to my pastor, and he's just an amazing guy. So.
You know, in the 1980s, Olivia Newton-John had a hit with the song "Let's Get Physical," but I think we need to rebrand that in 2026 for churches and say, "Let's get political." So there's no doubt in my mind that we definitely need to do that. And by the way, we just refreshed our numbers, and you are correct, Charles Hughes. You are ahead of your Democratic opponent by at least 1 point right now. And we're going to pray and hope that lead continues to expand in the days and weeks to come. Charles Hughes, representing, Lord willing, District 34, which, of course, the great Tom Lackey is stepping down from. We're thankful for your potential representation up there, Charles, and thanks for calling into KHTS this morning.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
You have a good day, sir. And there goes Charles Hughes, again, State Assembly District 34 up in the high desert.
You know, I just want to clarify that Tom Lackey is termed out right now, and he did a great job representing the Antelope Valley for all those years. But with term limits in California between the combination of the state Senate and the state Assembly, both Scott Wilk had been termed out a year ago with Suzette Valadares stepping into his shoes, and now hopefully we'll see Mr. Hughes step into hot shoes with Tom Lackey, because Tom did a great job.
Yeah, and by the way, Charles has Tom's full support, and thanks for the quick correction there. Yeah, he did term out. And the thing is, that high desert up there, that is a vast district. I mean, that stretches from portions of Acton, which is the extreme western end of the AV. And if you're in Acton, they would cuss me out right now for saying that they're part of the AV, but let's just technically say the extreme west end of the AV, all the way extended into the Victorville, Apple Valley area. So it's a very big, and there's, by the way, a bunch of nothing between the AV and Victor Valley. I mean, there's some homes out there, obviously, but there's a lot of land out there that's just open desert.
That's because you don't ski. Because Mountain High is...
That is true. That is true. And I believe it represents some of Wrightwood as well. So, again, because of all the redistricting in Prop 50, we're trying to keep in track, which is exactly where the lines have been redrawn.
If you're just tuning in, new numbers should be coming out any minute. Maybe Delgado, you can pull that up too and see if they've dropped some new numbers. But as of earlier today, there was still 40% of the vote still outstanding. But for the governor's race, Steve Hilton and Xavier Becerra are number 1 and 2. And it looks like here with our Congress, Jason Gibbs and George Whitesides will be running off in November. And as we look at the entirety of the vote here, Pastor Cook, it looks like the Republicans did real well, and there's some common sense beginning to take shape because people are unhappy with the last 20 years.
I like to call the common sense voters out there the normies. What I mean by that is we're just people that believe that men are men, women are women, and that more money that we should be in our pocket rather than being taken out of our pocket by Sacramento or Washington, D.C. for that matter. And I believe that normies are striking back. If you will, the normie empire strikes back here. Hopefully there's no Return of the Jedi in November. But the fact of the matter is, normies of all political stripes, by the way, are saying, you know what, enough's enough. We're going to give the other side, who has not had any kind of political power here in California for 16 years, respectively. Think about this. The last time that the city of Los Angeles has had a Republican mayor was Richard Riordan, and that was 2001. That's a long time. And then when it comes to governor, the last time we had a Republican governor, and again, we can question whether Schwarzenegger was a Republican for his second term because he was atrocious, frankly, was 2012. So Democrats have had a lock on power here in California for a great many years.
It's not just common sense, because I've been very concerned with County Measure ER, and that is the measure that would raise the county sales tax again another notch. We already have the highest taxes here in the entire country in California, and yet it looks like it's going to go down 53% to 47% right now, which is a good thing, and I'm breathing easily. But I'm scratching my head saying 47% of the voters have decided they would like to have their taxes raised.
Well, it's very possible that the way these measures are framed, perhaps people aren't reading them as carefully, or they're just reading the takeaway lines like this is going to go towards this. In other words, the way they frame them is like, well, this bond is going to go towards building affordable housing, and so the only thing they see there is affordable housing. Or they'll say this funds our fire department or our local law enforcement or kids. So those are the things that people look at and go, you know what, I'm for that. But then don't consider that their neighbor also has to pay that out of their pocket as well.
But with reports of 20 to 30% of our tax dollars here in the state going toward fraud, it's hard to believe that anyone wants to raise taxes for any cause.
No, absolutely. And this is one of the reasons why I believe the state controller's race is so unique right now. Again, in years past, we weren't worried about state controller and we weren't worried about insurance commissioner. Those were the non-romantic tickets. We wanted to know about the governor, we wanted to know about the mayor, and that's about it. But the state controller, Herb Morgan, who is running to be state controller right now against the incumbent, has actually won over 2 million votes at the moment, and that's about 700,000 more than Steve Hilton has running for governor statewide.
And we talked earlier about the insurance commissioner and how important that is. When you were talking about it earlier, one of the things I realized is that our former building, the radio station, which is right on Main Street in Newhall, that was considered a flood zone. So we've had horrible time getting insurance. We had to go through the California Fair Plan for something that is not going to get flooded. And I know your church is in a fire zone, and the insurance rate for your church has gone astronomical.
Yeah, we went from $8,000 a year, which was a complete wraparound plan with one plan, to having to get two separate plans for our church, which is the Fair Plan and a wraparound through Philadelphia, and it's gone up to $21,000 a year. So yeah, it's ridiculous, and that's just our church. Who knows how many other churches have had to go through that, other businesses. And of course, our home, we live in Acton, my wife and I. We've lived there for 10 years now. We love it. But we got pushed off our insurance because we're in a fire zone, and we're with the Fair Plan, and we're paying far more than we did under our prior insurance. And so this insurance commissioner position is important. And Stacy Korsgaden is my particular choice. She's in third right now, but she's only about 2 points behind the second-tiered candidate. There are two Democrats right now that are vying for that top two position. But the incumbent, Ricardo Lara, is an absolutely feckless individual. I'm glad that he's leaving. But the fact of the matter is, we need sanity. We need some normies to get into that position. And I was really eyeballing that particular item.
Normally in elections, with the summer hitting, we think the election campaign for November doesn't really heat up till around Labor Day, and that probably will still be the case. We talked about national conditions, international conditions, hopefully changing between now and then with the war in Iran, but also because we see such strong Republican support this time around, I think a lot of money will be coming in for the Republicans for this time around as well, don't you?
I think the President of the United States realizes how important and how key California is. If we could change California electorally, I think that would bode well long term for the Republican Party, federally speaking, as well. To have a friendly governor in Steve Hilton instead of an antagonistic one. Oh, and by the way, just to encourage our listeners out there here on KHTS, if we want to cripple any potential presidential run for Gavin Newsom, then the best way to completely cripple his potential run is to make sure that a Republican wins in his wake.
And what we've seen in California, having a super majority and really no possible say for any Republican in the last 20 years, it is not a good thing. And we'd say the same thing if the roles were reversed. I don't think a super majority, all Republican in California with no say for any Democrats is a good thing either. You need a balance.
We do. And to be honest with you, I think the way most Republicans look at California is the same way that Democrats look at the state of Texas. There's a big Senate campaign happening right now between Attorney General Ken Paxton, thank you, and James Tallarico, the Democratic hopeful. And the Democrats are just seething, wanting to take that Senate seat, which, by the way, it hasn't gone Democrat in like 25, 30 years. I think the last Democratic senator in Texas was Ann Richards, who also became a successful governor of Texas. And basically, Texas is looked at as, is this going to happen or not? Same thing here in California. The Republicans say, is California going to turn Republican or not? We don't know. The trend lines look good at the moment, but as we've been talking about all morning long, we've got a vote dump happening here probably as we speak. And right after the break, we'll figure out if there's any kind of movement on some of these races. And also, just to kind of give folks a heads up, we should be getting a call in from Don Wagner, the Orange County supervisor who's running for Secretary of State against Shelley Weber. And so, or Shirley Weber, excuse me, and hopefully he'll be calling in between 9:30 and 10 a.m. this morning.
You mentioned Texas. At least in Texas, the state legislature does have Democrats heading up committees. Here in California, that is not the case. And as our former senator, state senator Scott Wilk has said, he, at least when Jerry Brown was governor, they would meet with the Big Four on a weekly basis and discuss the issues and argue over them. Since Governor Newsom has been governor, and I've asked the question also to our state senator Suzette Valadares now, guess how many times they've met with the governor?
I'm assuming zero.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. And the sad thing is with the governor, he hasn't met with the Democrats either.
Yeah, and the sad thing about Newsom, and I shouldn't say the sad thing about Newsom, the sad thing for us in reference to Newsom is Newsom has been in power really all of his life, starting with San Francisco and then ended up being the mayor there and then lieutenant governor and now governor of the state 2 terms. The majority of his life has been in political power, and he really has no idea about what's going on in the average Joe here in California. He is a political prima donna in a lot of ways. He's a pretty boy. He's got great hair. I covet that, by the way. I know the Bible says I shouldn't covet, but unfortunately I do. But the fact is, just to go back to my point earlier, if we really want to cripple his potential, if we want to stop Gavin Newsom of Californiatizing the entire United States of America with a presidential run, then we need to stop him November 3rd of 2026 right here in California.
Some good advice. And having a balance is really important. We'll be back. We're going to get the latest results because the next drop did start at 9 o'clock, and our news staff right now is putting that over. So right after, we'll break for Fox News and come back with the updated results and a couple more interviews here with nonstop election coverage on your hometown station.
All right, we're doing morning election coverage here on KHTS hometown station. Of course, election coverage here in California lasts for 30 days as we don't certify our elections until July 10th, believe it or not. But we still have a few things to be thankful for this day after the election. And one of those things we can be thankful for is for Jason Gibbs, our city council member here in Santa Clarita, has looks like he's come ahead here of George Whiteside's. Jason, how are you, sir?
Pastor, good morning.
Where are you calling from? Seems like you're a busy man these days.
Well, there's no shortage of things to do. The day job doesn't stop. The council work doesn't stop. And running for Congress doesn't stop. So pick your lane and we drive.
Well, congratulations on a great night. And, of course, if these numbers continue to hold up, it looks like you'll be in the lead in this primary. Say hi to Carl Goldman.
Hey, Carl, how you doing, sir?
Congratulations, young man. So proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I was almost hesitant to call in because Peebo Bryson was playing on the radio, and I didn't want to interrupt that song.
Well, you just know that because you're going to win in November, it's a whole new world, Jason. So.
Oh, wow. Well done. Well done.
So is this looking like something you expected?
Well, I mean, I expected that the congressman and I would have come through as the top two. That part wasn't a surprise to me. But what we're seeing from the early numbers is there really is an interest, I think, on leadership that is really connected into the communities that the people serve in. And so I'm really feeling that as someone who was the only, partisan Republican in the race running, to come in ahead of the incumbent Democrat, I think it's a telling sign of, people are moving just past what party they are and what affects their families, what's affecting them at home, what affects the tabletop dinner issues. And I think the electorate is getting more in tune with how the policies that we see that come down from Sacramento affect everyone. And I think last night is starting to look a real telltale sign that that's what we're seeing.
We were talking to Herb Morgan earlier, and we also talked to Michael Gates, and we asked them this question, Jason, and that is, do you think that California seems to be moving in a more rightward direction, or are we calling the shots a little too early, considering there's still 40% of the vote outstanding? It's yet to be counted. The election doesn't get certified for another month, if you will. But from these numbers, the fact that we have from the governor all the way down to almost insurance commissioner, I'm still hoping that Stacey Korsgaden is able to get into that second tier spot. But your thoughts about just the fact that it seems like we're actually done rather well this day after, from the top of the ticket all the way down to local elections.
Sure. I mean, there's no question they had a good showing so far on the first night. And as you mentioned, we got another 30 days until we actually certify. But my initial thought, Pastor, is you really see a referendum to what has existed. The state of California has had majority rule, has one vision rule. And the reality is life for the people who are here are not better. And when you come post-2020, when you really had this full opportunity for people to pick up and really reevaluate their lives post-COVID, a lot of them said, you know what, I can do better for my family if I'm not in California anymore. And I think we have seen a very large exodus of that middle class, of the group that was pursuing the American dream, the group that was starting small businesses, that was pushing the economy. That left, and then what got remained was this real top-down talk about politics and partisanship that says left side good, right side bad. And the bottom line is the people who are trying to survive and make it in California, they're not able to do so at the level that they deserve to, and it's because of the impacts and policies that were laid before them. So it's very hard to be an incumbent politician in California and say, re-elect me, I'm going to continue doing this great work, but when the great work is an increase in homelessness. It's an increase in fraud. It's spending that just keeps piled on and piled on. People pushed back. And look no further than Measure ER. This was another attempt from the county to try and increase sales tax across the county as a counterpunch to what they saw as the Trump administration coming after, Medicare and coming after people's health. It was down, the last number I saw, I think it was down 8 points. Because I've always said you can only push people so far before it doesn't matter. It's not about politics anymore. It's about family, and it's about their pocketbook. And we have been pushing on it too much.
I want to give Carl Goldman the last word on this, but again, from me, congratulations, Jason, on a great night.
And once
Thank
again,
you.
congratulations. You mentioned Measure ER, and we're celebrating here that measure is going down. But I'm scratching my head that 47% of the voters want an actual sales tax increase.
I do as well, Carl. I join you on the head scratch. And, this is somebody who at the local government level, we talked about this at City Hall, and it was never from a lens of partisanship or right versus left. It was a lens from, as one of the lowest taxed areas in LA County, we would rise above 10% in sales tax. And if you drive 15 minutes to the west and get into Ventura County, you're down in the 7%. That is significant dollars when you're talking about purchases. And the reality was for us is we can't just ask for more revenue from people when we can't account for the spending. We can't ask for more money when all we do is continually take and don't actually provide results. And I think this is really a pushback on that. So you do see some turnout. I think some people will, for lack of a better word, they will go along if that's what those leaders say. But more and more people, I think, are providing their own individualism and saying enough is enough. We can't afford this. Even if they had an agreement on politics, they can't agree on how you solve the problems by just taking.
Well, we'll let you get back to your other 3 jobs right now, Jason Gibbs, and good luck. And we look forward to some terrific things over the next few months out of you.
Carl, thank you so much.
All right, well, that's Jason Gibbs, a council member here in Santa Clarita, running for the 27th Congressional District here. And by the way, Carl, the fact that he pulled ahead of George Whiteside's under the new redrawn lines
Right, I didn't even think of that.
is actually quite interesting because, in fact, if we look all up and down the state, even David Valadeo up in the Central Valley of California, James Gallagher in the special election for District 1, I believe it is, he actually came out ahead by about 8 points against his Democratic rival. And again, these are all redrawn lines under Gavin Newsom's Prop 50. That is actually rather significant.
And for those who don't realize it, Prop 50 changed the Santa Clarita Valley and impacted Santa Clarita in a really terrible way. For many, many years, we had one representative covering for Congress, covering our entire valley. This Prop 50 has now divided us up into 3 sections. And someone living in where we used to live in the Sand Canyon area and over on the east side of Canyon Country, you're now being represented by the same person as people south of Wilshire Boulevard. And those interests are definitely the same.
Yeah, District 30, Congressional District 30 is like up through Acton, Agua Dulce. And again, the person that's representing that right now is a Democratic Socialist. And I don't think this person even understands remotely of what folks in Acton and Agua Dulce are like. Because we're a bunch of flag-waving, patriotic Americans. And in particular, we're staying in California because we're not going to be bullied to leave our state. And so, yeah. But if in fact Republicans can do well under the current lines under Prop 50, I think that would be, to quote Jennifer Oliver O'Connell earlier from Red State, that would be a huge middle finger to Sacramento and to Gavin Newsom in particular.
The recap on the numbers so far, it's hard to believe that it's 9:48 right now here in Santa Clarita, and yet we still don't have any update on any numbers from both the state and from the county. The county, our news department just told me the county hasn't been updated since the 11 o'clock hour last night. State, I think, got updated at sometime in the 4 a.m. hour. But in this day of high technology, it's hard to believe that we're still dealing with the Pony Express.
California is the AI capital of the world. We're able to do things in record time, except count our votes. And to me, it just lends to more and more suspicion as to what are they doing. Again, do we need to get conspiratorial about this? Do we need to put our tinfoil hats on? I don't want to, but unfortunately, it's almost as if they have a reason for us to sweat, right? We look at this, we're celebrating the day after the election, looking at all these numbers, saying, wow, look at all these Republicans. But remember, Carl, in 2024, I believe it was, or maybe 2023, when Rick Caruso was running against Karen Bass the first time, Rick Caruso went to bed on election night thinking he was comfortably ahead of Karen Bass, like by 8 or 9 points. But over the course of the next couple of weeks, it was the inverse. Karen Bass won by 8 to 9 points. And this is the thing that we worry about here in California is where are these numbers, what are these numbers going to look like 2 weeks from today?
The federal government is doing a tight look right now on election fraud here in California and Georgia as well. And they've come up with, so far it's still too early to tell, but it looks like from conversations I've heard and stories I've read, it looks like that it's pretty damaging evidence that they have right now showing, particularly for the LA area.
Well, there's no doubt about that if we do, in fact, have a turnover politically in 2026, November of this year, just think about how panicked the Democratic Party will be in California when Herb Morgan, Steve Hilton, Michael Gates, and these guys come in from the golden ticket and start overturning all these political rocks and finding out the rot that's underneath them. And it's all the NGOs, it's all the slush funds, it's all the money that has been passed from this. Think about this. The billions that were allocated to the fire victims in the Palisades and in the Eaton fires, and none of it, practically none of it, has been accounted for almost a year and a half after Sacramento did that vote.
And I know you have ridden the high-speed rail, of course, from L.A. to San Francisco.
Oh, many times. Yeah, many times. It's such high speed that we're actually going to turn them into high-speed buses now, according to what I keep hearing. So, yeah, that is a huge slush fund. And Gavin Newsom keeps pointing to the fact that, well, at least we have people working on it. You mean perpetually working on something that's been in the works for 20 years? I mean, if you just look back at our history here in California, or in the United States for that general, the Golden Gate Bridge was put up within 3 years. What is it? King Kong climbed that building. The Empire State Building in New York was put up in record time in the early part of the 20th century. You're telling me in the 21st century, with what we're able to accomplish, we can't put up high-speed rail in California unless it's a huge boondoggle slush fund for a bunch of deep pockets.
And Santa Clarita is a good example of what happens when there is an emergency, how quickly the state can react, because we're celebrating now, not celebrating, we're remembering the 32 years ago for the Northridge earthquake back in 94 when the 5 and 14 went down. It went down the end of January and it was rebuilt. We're talking about a freeway and had to be rebuilt with earthquake protection. It got rebuilt by early June.
And do you remember in 1994 who our governor was?
No, who was our governor?
Governor Pete Wilson.
It was Pete Wilson.
It was Pete Wilson. And yes, California has had some governors that were Republican. And by the way, just as a side note here, if Steve Hilton does win, we will again in California pick someone who is a TV personality, because obviously he was a Fox News host for many years. And he's also someone that's foreign born but has been naturalized here in the United States of America. And that's, of course, going back to Arnold Schwarzenegger in 2006. And also someone that has Hollywood connections with Ronald Reagan. So California, we have a way of voting for our Republicans here.
We'll still have a Democrat majority in the legislature up in California, but assuming Steve Hilton does come in, he'll at least be able to veto some of the insanity that's taken place, and I think it will be very difficult for the legislature to overturn that veto.
Yeah, and I'm actually really encouraged. I don't know how many of you like this analogy, but it's like you walk into a dark garage at 2 in the morning, and then you turn on the light real quick, and you see all the roaches scurrying about. That's kind of the way I'm seeing the Democrats right now. Again, I'm hoping that these early numbers hold. Again, we could be back on air a week from today, and everything's be totally different. But we'll see if these numbers hold.
Voter ID is going to be on the measure in November. How do you think that will impact the elections if we pass that?
I think that's one of the reasons why Donald Trump chose to support Steve Hilton as early as he did. I scratched my head initially thinking, why is he poking his nose into this California primary when he is himself not very popular in the state of California? I understand why now, which is get Steve in the top 2 and allow there to be Republican enthusiasm going into November, specifically for voter ID, which is one of his seminal issues that he ran on in 2016 and 2024.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see what happens at that point in time. The summer's hit. We noticed with our website that traffic on our website drops down close to 30% in the months of July and early August, and then as soon as school starts, Santa Clarita, it starts very quickly in that first and second week of August in elementary school or junior high school. The numbers come right back up, and that's when I think the money will start pouring in, and the real election heat will heat up in terms of the November election.
Well, the customary thinking has always been, right after Labor Day. I think Steve Hilton is going to take a page out of Trump's playbook and keep things going from this day forward. Steve Hilton seems to be a real energetic kind of dude, and I think his team is going to be right there with him. Again, if you're just joining us, Steve Hilton is in the lead. Lori Romero is in the lead for lieutenant governor. For Michael Gates is in the lead against not Rob Bonta, but he's going in the top 2. State Controller Herb Morgan's going into the top 2. His entire golden ticket. What's Steve Hilton's entire focus? Making California golden again. And so I do believe there is a possibility, maybe not the strongest of possibilities, but there is a possibility that California just might turn a corner, at least when it comes to sanity.
We're still missing 40% of the votes that took place before yesterday, although the way California works, your ballot, if you're a mail-in ballot, it only has to be stamped by yesterday. So given the Postal Service here in California, it will be a number of weeks before we have the final tallies counted, and then the final certification doesn't happen until July 10th, correct?
July 10th, and so therefore these numbers are going to change, folks. And so as excited as we are today, and there's a lot of reason to be excited, so don't get me wrong, but I do think we need to be cautiously optimistic. Don't forget to tune in today if you can. If I can give myself a quick shout out, 2 o'clock, Politics in the Pulpit. We'll have Sheriff Alex Villanueva and Secretary of State Don Wagner. Thanks for tuning in today to your hometown station.